And there was 5 that answered yes. 5 that answered yes, which makes me worry that there's perhaps 98 people that didn't do it against 5 that did. And that was a very, very simple question. Who looked at their hour charts this morning with value? Who does the exercises that we teach in the classroom to get the big picture narrative before the day even commences? Who puts the supply demand on the charts in advance of the day developing? Who's already aware and prepared for the big macro trades when they set up on the microstructures? When they set up on the microstructures, 5 out of 93 said yes, which means that 88 perhaps, sorry, 103, which means 98 perhaps didn't. And that's one of the big challenges we have in this room, is there's too many people not doing the necessary amount of work if they want to be successful. And that's something that you have to just keep working on. It's not something that's going to suddenly, change, because you're going to keep forgetting, and you're going to keep forgetting, and you're going to keep forgetting, and you're going to keep forgetting about these things, guys. Well, that's why we did yesterday's class as well, Paul, because, it's the stuff that people do forget in the heat of the moment. They forget about the process of level 2s. They forget about the process of selling into liquidity on a sell trend. They forget that it's really difficult to sell on an uptick and buy on a downtick as a trader, because you're not commercial traders. This sell didn't just happen. I mean, if we go back a couple of days ago, literally the sell started at 1700 hours and it finished at 7 o'clock in the morning. 1700 hours till 7 o'clock in the morning of selling, guys. How can you justify that as a retail trader? How can you justify, and yet look at the trade outcome? Enormous trade outcome, right? Enormous trade outcome to the downside bottom edge, taking out the lows. But it took hours, literally, from 5 o'clock London time to 7 o'clock the next morning London time. It took 14 hours of selling to get that second top edge in place for the oil sellers to work into this sell-off from 65.20s down to a low print of 63.80s for 1,400 hours, $1,400. 14 hours of selling. And some people think that the big commercials are trying to get a two-lot on board, because that's what was available at the top edge of a 1 minute pin rejection candle, and say, there's the commercial seller, and you're saying, you're an idiot. Shut the feck up. If you've got nothing sensible to say, don't say it, right? So when we see the right trades and the right levels, I mean, getting good levels aren't difficult. Most of the levels you see on my charts are straight lines. Draw a straight line on that one. What do you find? Draw a straight line right across that top edge resistance area, support area. Straight lines on the chart, straight lines on your charts. And what do you find? Trades. You find areas of liquidity. On a big picture, this is a level 1 level, isn't it? On a big picture. This is a level 1, so that break above that level 1 is a level 2 seller. That level 2 seller came in at a price of 76 and higher. There's the level 2 seller right there. Drill that down into a 1 minute chart, and what do you see? You see that level 2 sell area just up here. You might say, why the hell did you come in early then? Because in the short term, I had this pullback back into that supply line. So of course I'm going to come in at that stage, right? Is it always going to work on the short trade? Of course it's not. But I'm a good enough trader that I can work it out if it doesn't, right? If I get a failed auction, I know it's not going to stick around. And I can get away from the early stages of that trade and work into the higher price. And yes, this is a reasonably large area. It goes from 50s to nearly 90s. It's 40 ticks of selling. That's what the banks are doing. They're not using 1 tick, 5 tick bracket sell areas. They're using 50 tick sell areas and 50 tick buy areas. It's just one of those elements, isn't it? You've got to try and make sure you don't lose sight of the big picture. And it's not as difficult as you think, guys. I mean, you look at that and say, there's no value. There is value. The highest high on the value line was over here. It's not any higher, but the price is higher. It's not great value in the short term, but it is value. You've got to make sure you know what the commercials are seeing. You've got to know what the commercials are seeing. You've got to understand that commercials operate on the bigger time frames. And you can see some very short-term ideas, perhaps this bottom edge for a buy. You know, it's a good trade. It goes 100 ticks, $1,000. Great trade, right? Just got to keep working it, guys. Got to keep working these ideas. Use them over and over again. It's the only way you'll guarantee that you won't forget about them.